with the first one. I'm not sure who it is, but he'll be first. Let me click on. I guess it'll be 1950. 1950. Go ahead. Who am I speaking with?
Hi, Jamiel. This is Robert Sticht. I think Bob Rosebrock is probably also pressing one about now. And
yeah, not yet. I see his
him?
number. Yeah, I see his number, but he didn't press one yet. So until he presses on there, we'll start with you, and then we'll get him going. So basically, I don't know too much of the background on you. Okay, there he is. I see Bob just came on. I'm gonna click him on two at the same time. Hey, Bob, are you there?
Yeah. Hey,
Bob?
Jamiel. Hi.
Hey, all right. Okay, we got the crew is here.
Hi, Bob.
All right, people. This is going to be a good show. We got some exciting stuff going on. We got people doing some things. We got people who are not just sitting around, they're not complaining and talking to the TV set. There's a spot in L.A. I don't know if Bob want me to tell him or not, but I drop off someone there at work every day, and I should always sit there. And I saw the guy behind the window, but I never thought nothing of it, I never get out. I never get out the car. So this one day, I just wanted me a breakfast burrito. So I got up and I got out, and I could tell when he looked at me that he was like, hey, I know that look. That's a look like, hey, is that who I think it is? And he looked, and he was like, hey, Mr. Shaw. And, and so we always thought, I was supposed to have been there at the court, but I didn't make it, but I was there in spirit. But anyway, we're going to start with Bob. We're going to go. Who wants to go first and break down everything?
Go ahead,
I'll
Bob.
shoot off.
Bob or Rob?
I'll take the first shot there on the American flag. And thanks again, Jamiel. I appreciate it. And it was a great opportunity to meet you there. And I have so much respect for you, what you've done, and how you've stayed strong and stood tall through all of this. A great leadership quality, and your message is so profound. And my case is I'm a veteran, and over at the Los Angeles VA, there's over 600 acres were deeded back in 1888 to be a permanent national home for disabled soldiers. And now everybody's got a piece of the action except our veterans, and we're the capital for homeless veterans. And back 9 years ago, we started protesting every Sunday outside at the corner of Wilshire and San Vicente. And we eventually, through our efforts, we won a federal judgment against the VA that there are 9 illegal real estate deals inside, and they snuck around, be like typical government and powerful politicians and wealth and power, and they agreed to so-called settle it, the judgment. And the number one objective they promised to do was to end veteran homelessness by the end of 2015, and we're halfway through 2017, and we're nowhere near it. But the 9 illegal properties have all gotten to stay. The Brentwood School, there's a public dog park there, UCLA baseball diamond. You go down the list there, and none of them are veteran-related, but they weaseled around with some little clauses here and there, like at UCLA baseball diamond, if a baseball player goes there to watch a game, it's therapy, I guess. And it's that kind of stuff, and yet we remain the capital for homeless veterans. But we still stayed and fought the good fight. We modeled our Sunday rally after Dr. King and Gandhi, being peaceful, nonviolent. And we started hanging the American flag back on Memorial Day of 2015, and nobody paid any attention to us. And after about 5 months, they came out, the VA police, and issued me an arrest citation for displaying a placard, not a flag, but we were, within the law always, because there are no laws against displaying a flag or anything. You can't display a foreign flag. But nonetheless, they ended up issuing like 14 of them. We got 13, they did the 13, we got them all dismissed. And then they came back and issued another one. And so I had to go to court on it, and fortunately I got Judicial watch, and on the line now with us is Robert Sticht, who is the defense attorney, a top-notch defense attorney, and we were able to put a case together and defend it successfully. They had issued citations for taking photos of the police while they were issuing these falsified arrest citations for the flag. But we got vindicated on a week ago today, on the 18th, and yesterday, a week ago yesterday, and we're we still want to get this land back. That's our main cause, but it's pretty sad day when the VA calls the American flag a placard, and the men.
So
and
did
women
you get arrested that day, or what happened?
Well, they issue what they call an arrest citation, because in their filings and all, and they said Rosebrock was released after the arrest, even though only one time I was put in handcuffs. That was for taking the photographs, and the VA cop put the cuffs on so tight they made indentions into my wrist. We had photos of it. Called the paramedics because it broke the skin on my wrist, and I had to get some ointment and a Band-Aid on it. But it's that out of control kind of thing. And when I hear what your son went through, and even your wife, who's a veteran, and the heartache and everything that's in there, and they're just like, this stuff doesn't exist. But God forbid if a veteran wants to display the American flag, and they're coming after us. And we need to...
that's crazy, because I see all the time people on TV burning the flag, and they just do the flag like it's a piece of toilet paper.
Yeah.
They don't do nothing. They always say, freedom of speech, and they always have an excuse for them to do it. But then when you try to do it in a more of a honoring way, they want to put you in jail.
Yeah, I could have gone 6 months in jail for this. So it was pretty remarkable. We got a lot of coverage. I saw you... a couple of days ago on Fox and Friends. We were on there right after the trial, and I'm glad that, but here in Los Angeles, the LA Times will not cover the story, yet the New York Post editorial did a great summary of it, and we got to take our country back, Jamiel, and I know it's going to be a tough battle, but there's no alternative out there.
Yeah. So you were in the were you in the Army, Air Force, what?
Army. I was a draftee in the Army, 1965, 67. I did not serve in Vietnam. I was spared the brunt of the battle, but I feel such a responsibility to help those that did, because guys, I'm 75. There are guys my age that are homeless out there from all the serious effects of war, and we just, there's so much that we can do as Americans, but when I see this stuff of sanctuary city, I can't help but say that Los Angeles is a sanctuary city, because they protect the illegal occupants in there and keep the ones that belong inside, the homeless, and keep them on the outside. It's a microcosm of the big picture.
Yeah, 'cause that's jacked up because of vets. I mean, you have all these homeless vets, and then you have all the legal aliens, and you notice how legal aliens, you never see them on the sidewalk sleeping in boxes or tents and stuff. It's like as soon as they get here, they get them immediate housing in the Section 8, but the military, they're out there risking their lives to make us safe, and some of them volunteered. They volunteered to go out there and risk their lives, and then they come back and people don't like them, and they just let you lay on the street, give you some opioids, and they say, we have an opioid epidemic. Yeah, you guys gave it to this is one of the epidemics. It wasn't like crack or meth, This was like almost government-sanctioned addiction. They got everybody hooked on opioids and stuff, and now they're saying, we have a problem. Yeah, we sure do. So is that a problem with the... Yeah. So what is... Go ahead.
One of the problems with veterans is they put them on these drugs, and they cross between their own self-medication, and they just leave them out in the streets to die, essentially. Nationwide, on average, every day, 22 veterans commit suicide. You will never hear that. When you compound that with the illegals killing our citizens, and you got veterans committing suicide, And what's government doing? Trying to build these sanctuary cities to protect the criminals. I don't even know this country anymore that I grew up in and was so proud to serve. But it's sad, really sad.
Yeah. So you're all through with your case, or you mentioned something about a 10-day appeal? Are they going to appeal it or what?
We don't know. We'll know on Friday. Robert may be able to address that a little bit, but we're waiting for that. And you would think they wouldn't have even, tried to prosecute this. And now if they want to try to appeal, and they made such a poor showing, compounded with a great defense on our side and very weak prosecution. They have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. And boy, the judge wasn't buying any of it. He told him, he said, "You just don't have a credible case here." And it was great to hear those two words, "not guilty." And but I think that our government is the one that's guilty in this whole mess. And any VA police officer that would issue an arrest citation for displaying a flag and calling it a placard, there's something wrong there, and the prosecutor,
explain one more
U.S.
time.
attorneys. Yeah.
Explain one more time exactly what you were doing and why you were doing it again.
Well, we've been out there, forever, and it's always been part of our program to display an American flag in honor of our veterans, and we were just, as innocent could be about it, and they came all the way on the outside to do it. We're out on a public forum, and it's just, it's total innocence, and like you said, it was honor. We display our flag in honor of our veterans who have defended the flag, and there are many veterans inside that VA who are trying to heal from defending the American flag. And with all that, they've got crime that's rampant inside, never mind all the illegal real estate deals, but you add to that the drug dealing that goes on inside there. They've got, there's people in the medical department that deal with drugs, and many of them have been caught on that. And nationwide, it's rampant. And what we're trying to do is to help homeless veterans, and we're being persecuted and prosecuted. And
they don't care about
free.
Yeah, they don't. It's sad because I remember when my son's mother was in Iraq on her second tour of duty. I remember she called me to ask me. I remember the phone call when she was like, "They're telling me out here in Iraq that Jazz is dead." I remember I wanted to say no, because you know how in the military, when somebody in your family goes overseas, you don't want no military at your house. That's bad news. So if you come to my house, don't wear a uniform. But you can imagine when she was in Iraq, the same thing happened, but in reverse, and caught her off guard. I remember she was saying, "Wow, I wonder what's going on." They called me in the commander's office. She don't want to go in there, She's like, "What did I do? I don't think I did nothing." And she goes in there and she sees the chaplain. She's still not thinking, "My son is dead." They took her gun and all her stuff like that. And when they told her, she was like, "Wait a minute, this can't be real. I'm out here doing." Yes, and then when she got back, it's like they fought in court. They made it to where they were trying to fight that she couldn't wear her uniform to court because she was she was in the military, so she wanted to wear a uniform. And they had a little separate trial off the jury just for that. That they didn't want her to wear it, but the judge said she could. And they didn't want to say.
Goodness.
And then they won the part about the. They didn't want us to be able to let the jury know that he's illegally in the country, and the judge and they won that one because they said it would be prejudicial. But so what? If it would or not, that was part of what happened. That's what made it bad. It's already bad enough. The boy dead. I mean, death is bad enough on its own. You don't have to know what happened. Just an ideal. Jazz is dead. That was enough for me.
Yeah.
And he started adding on all this stuff, and you find out, wait a minute, illegal alien on his third gun charge? Well, it's like, wait a minute, what? It's almost like, wait a minute, that's not fair. We got people out there fighting for the country, not for this stuff to happen, that your kids are dead by the hands of illegal felons. But anyway, Robert, go ahead. What do you want to talk about?
Hi, Jamiel. Well,
hey.
mainly let Bob take the lead. He's got quite a victory there out of the federal district court here in California, Los Angeles. Up front, Jamiel, before I forget, let me just, for your viewers, I don't know who's listening in your radio audience, but I wanted you to know that Judicial Watch today issued a media alert which reached probably between 4 and 5 million people on the social media network for your program. So one of the things that concerned me was whether they're going to crash your server or something to come and hear about Bob's victory. Have you ever heard?
Yeah,
have you ever heard of an
Trump,
American?
When I had Trump show, he closed. He shut it down.
Oh yeah, right. Well, Trump's got 50 million plus when he was a candidate, and now he's probably well over that. But can you imagine an American Army vet from the Vietnam era being charged with a criminal case for displaying a flag on Memorial Day of all things, and the flag was like 4 by 6 inches. And of course, it was our contention, just as a footnote, it was our contention that during trial, we got to view the actual flags that they claim were displaying that day. And I looked at Bob's face when he looked at that evidence, and I could tell he was sour as a grape because he did not recognize those flags as being the American flags that he displays. But so I don't even know that they brought in the appropriate evidence to bring into court to do this, but we didn't have to rely upon that point. We successfully defended that case on our thing. So anyway, first of all, the 4 to 5 million social media people who follow your Twitter, Judicial Watch, social media outlets, they probably heard about this today.
Cool. So thank you.
Maybe they'll tune in and maybe become regular listeners too. The other thing is, as you know, your relationship with Judicial Watch goes back a little ways, all the way back to the time of your son's murder. They covered your story throughout. It's been a corruption case that they've covered since 2008. I just pulled down today quickly just to remind myself, and I pulled down, if listeners go to judicialwatch.org and run a search on your name, Jamiel Shah, they will find immediately 8 separate articles at least that deal with the actual progression that you went through from the time that your son was murdered to the time that you sued Sheriff Baca and the others, and the time that the eventually verdict came out for the murderer. But that was the same week. That was the same week, as you recall, that there was up in San Francisco. Your son's murder occurred, I think, back in March of 2008, and in June of 2008, an illegal immigrant by the name of Ramos was accused and convicted and sentenced for murdering 2 people in the Bologna family up in San Francisco. So we had these tragedies just in 2008. We saw 2015, the Steinle murder up in San Francisco. Of course, Kate Steinle was a beautiful young lady. No reason for any of that to have occurred other than massive failures at every level of government. And and you asked about not knowing so much about my background. Let me just, for you and your listening audience, just give you a sketch. I was born about 5 miles from the Mexican border. I'm very familiar with all the border issues. My dad was in the Navy, World War II, in Japan on a ship. My mother was a lifelong career civilian servant. She served the Strategic Air Communications Command, Intelligence Communications, her entire career. And since I got out of law, I went out of law school. I went and got an extra degree on top of my law degree and became an expertise in tax. And from tax went down to the Justice Department in Washington, D.C. While I was in Washington, I was assigned to work on the Mariel Cuban crisis. I don't know if you know about Mariel Cubans, but back in 1980, of course, a boatload of Cubans came over here from.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, the boat lift. Remember, brought
yeah.
many thousands here. Well, what happened was this was all during the Reagan administration, but in 1987, the Reagan administration, through the Secretary of State, reinstituted a law, so to speak, that would repatriate about 2,500 of those Cuban nationals back to Cuba. What that did was lead to a massive federal prison riot down in Atlanta, where a lot of those who had come here on the Mariel boatload, and of course were not here legally, they had been released back into the streets, and many had committed crimes as they were already in federal prison or state prison. And down in Atlanta, there was a riot back in 1989. I don't know if you remember that, but there was a massive riot and a fire in the Atlanta prison. And I was detailed to the Mariel Cuban review panel. So we conducted these secret reviews down in the bunkers of those pillars in Washington in 1989 for a lot of these Mariel Cubans. So this issue of illegal immigration, as it turns out, pretty much stems back not only to the time I was born, but highlights itself back in 1989. I've been suing the government. You know, I saw your lead. You advertised this on your website as myself and Bob Rosebrock suing the government, you know, the federal government. I've been suing the federal government or defending the people against the federal government for the last 30 years in all kinds of cases. And I've represented just a slew of large cases, nationwide, high-profile cases in what's tax protests, what they call a tax honesty movement today. They used to call it tax protests, but they'd get in trouble with the IRS or other entities, federal and state. I've handled a lot of these cases. I've handled a lot of white-collar crime, fraud, misrepresentation, people who have scammed the Medicare system. I've also represented, and this brings it right home to you, I've been detailed by the court, appointed in a number of cases to represent. I went back through my list before coming on the show, and I don't think any one of them is actually illegally here that I'm going to speak about. But I have represented, some of the largest gang members or cases here also in California. And I just looked at a list of what the cross-section. So I checked as of today, the Hispanic gangs that are in Los Angeles Central, which is where you feed out of here, there are 36 separately identified gangs. There's 20 more in Boyle Heights, 10 in Hollywood, 14 in Northeast L.A., 53 in San Fernando Valley, 9 gangs in San Pedro, Wilmington, and Harbor. South L.A. has 26. South L.A. East-South, 44 gangs. West L.A., of all places, has 8 gangs. Right here where Bob Rosebrock was doing his Sunday protest Memorial Day protest when he was arrested for this flag charge and photography charges the next 2 weeks later. 8 gangs, registered gangs here in Los Angeles. I tell you, it's just incredible. Everything from the 38th Street Gang, Avenues Gang, Front Hood Crips Gang, Armenian Power, Criminal Enterprise, Broadway Crips Gang, Harlem Crips Rolling 30s, Florencia 13 Criminal Street Gang, Pueblo Bishops Bloods Gang. I actually had a member in the Pueblo Bishops Bloods Gang. That's a black gang, as you know.
I know. I remember I heard about it a few times. I heard about some of the black gangs in those neighborhoods. It's like, how did that happen?
Oh yeah, well there's some vicious stuff going on there. Orange County Mexican Mafia, Black Angels Gang, Azusa 13, El Monte, and of course MS-13, which hits the news everywhere, is everywhere.
So what's the problem? I mean, how can the law enforcement justify anything if they know these guys are there? I mean, what is their reasoning for not going out there every day, part of their daily job, and getting them? I mean, how do you get that many gangs in the city when you have all these police? Well,
and how do you catch them all when you got so many members of the gang? I mean, there there are literally tens of thousands of gang members, and it ranges in their crimes, from low-level drug crimes where they're just passing off some meth out on the street. Some guy gets out of school. He drops out of high school. He gets on the street. He makes friends with others who are in the gang. You call them friends. You know how that works. They become friends. Unlike your son, who was concentrating on his studies, these guys can get stray and go that way. They'll end up in a meth deal or even a handoff just to serve as an intermediary to sell an illegal gun, of all things. An unregistered gun or one that serial number's been removed. Everything from that all the way up to the connections that the MS-13 has with the cartels down in Mexico and also now the terrorists. And again, if you go back to the Judicial Watch site, Judicial Watch has done an incredible amount of research and reporting on what the major news network's not covering, which is the connection between these gangs, the cartels, and the terrorists who are coming across the Mexican border, primarily through the Texas area. And they just can't control it. I tell you, Jamiel, I was shocked the first time I actually sat down with federal prosecutors in a major gang case, and they outlined the map of the gangs that were going to do what they're doing. I represented a cooperator in that case. He was a major gang member. He cooperated with the feds. And I can't get into his cooperation, but I can tell you that the map that I saw of the gang infestation certainly opened my eyebrows, because for many years I lived in Southern California, and I just never knew that in my backyard were all of these problems until I was actually appointed to represent some of these people. So that gives you a little flavor of that. Now, on the direct front, what's important is not so much what the police are doing, what ICE is doing. Finally, we have a president. President Trump should be credited for finally giving ICE the authorities that they need, turning them loose and letting them do what they need to do at the border, what they need to do at the local jails. Judicial Watch and I have a lawsuit pending up in San Francisco. We're suing the San Francisco sheriff for her policies on illegal immigration. Same kind of policies, Special Order 40, that allowed your son to be murdered.
How does that work with the sovereign immunity? Because that's what they kept getting us on. We tried twice, and both times they had a demur and they threw it out.
Well, don't feel alone in that, because sovereign immunity is a very strong defense. We used it when I was with the Department of Justice. It's a very strong defense. You're not alone in that. Those cases, 99 out of 100 times, will lose. Nobody's figured out yet how to actually prosecute a case on behalf of the surviving family quite well enough.
Yeah.
As you know, Kate Steinley's family did the same thing, and her case was also dismissed earlier this year.
It was dismissed? I thought they were waiting for litigation or something. So it was dismissed all the way?
I've got that order. Yeah, no. As a matter of fact, I've got that order on my desk, and it's one of the things that I'm going to distinguish in our lawsuit up in San Francisco. What we're doing, let me just tell you what we're doing. San Francisco Sheriff, down in Los Angeles, you have this don't ask, don't tell policy, but up in San Francisco, they have an actual hierarchy where they categorize all of the illegal immigrants that come into the custody of the sheriff, and the sheriff is the primary custodian of all the jails in San Francisco. So what ICE does is issues one of two things. It says, I want a detainer on this individual, hold them until I pick them up. Or number two, they want to get a release date. They want to know when they're going to be released so that ICE can pick them up so they don't go back out in the street and do what they did to Kate Steinley. And what the sheriff has done is built this wall of obstacles in front of ICE being able to come in and do its job. That's what's led President Trump administration to issue these executive orders. His most recent executive order, which is everybody should familiarize himself with, they're interested in this issue, is, of course, 17368, signed on January 20th of 2017. January 25th. 13768 is the number. And just recently, 13768.
I'm sorry, 13768?
13768. Yeah, he issued two of them that day. One was the border, that was 13767. And then the interior, So one covers the border to prevent the immigration unlawfully from coming into the United States. And then the second one is 13768, which deals with the interior, which gives ICE the authorities they need to go back and do their jobs, which includes, as you know, hiring 10,000 more agents. People who had cheated on their taxes in the past were always afraid because the IRS would hire more agents to go out and audit people. And then when the resources were not any good in Congress, well, they'd scale back, and then people would escape through audits. Well, I think it's been the same kind of a thing going on with the Department of Homeland Security. They just haven't had the manpower necessary to handle the flow across the border. So 13768 deals with that. And so Trump signed these executive orders in January. Of course, that inflamed all of the lefties out here in California, especially in San Francisco, because as San Francisco goes, so goes the nation, right? They think, especially this state representative up there, Kevin De Leon, who's now calling all of us white supremacists, right?
Oh, my God. Crazy
it's just incredible. But what they do is they've now sued the Trump administration. So it's not the same sovereign immunity kind of a problem that you had as a family filing a wrongful death suit for your son, or Kate Steinle, who filed a wrongful death suit. What these are lawsuits that have to do with constitutional issues of whether Trump administration can commandeer the state of California to comply with federal immigration law. And that's what the lawsuit from San Francisco suing Trump and the Attorney General and all of those folks, that lawsuit claims that the 10th Amendment of the United States Constitution protects California from federal immigration law, if you can believe this. And some of the highest constitutional law scholars in the country are backing this unbelievably. They're backing this. These are our opponents. Why we need so many supporters, because our opponents are among the best and the brightest out there, and the most funnest. They're using California taxpayer money to sue President Trump's administration for actually enforcing the law, because that's all he's doing.
Yeah, you know what's so weird about that? I just heard today.
Yeah, let me just finish this, Jamiel, please. Our lawsuit in San Francisco, on behalf of an individual client taxpayer up there, is seeking actually a declaratory judgment that what the sheriff is doing is illegal. In other words, what she's done is put all of this sheriff, her name is Sheriff Hennessy, and Sheriff Hennessy has built a policy that builds so many obstacles to ICE doing their job that we're claiming that it actually is preempted by federal law, federal immigration law. So what you have here is very interesting constitutional law principles under the 10th Amendment, and then also under what we call the Supremacy Clause of the United States, which is the federal law is the law of the land. And the immigration law is so broad and so powerful that no one's ever questioned that what the federal law on immigration is what the law is. But California wants to make its own law and wants to give sanctuary to all of the illegal immigrants that they have in their various jurisdictions. And there's at least 32 jurisdictions out there that got about $20 million last year in federal grants, which are now being threatened. We saw just in the last few days the Department of Justice issued a letter to 9 or 13 jurisdictions, including San Francisco, telling them basically if they don't comply with these laws that are in my lawsuit with Judicial Watch, then they are not going to get their federal grants. It's this kind of power that we should really be thankful that President Trump got into office, because it's crazy out there. It's just crazy.
How does that work with the you were saying how they're not okay with this new judge just recently, yesterday, he stopped it. So do you think the outcome is what do you think the outcome is going to be on that?
Well, Trump said he was going to see him in Supreme Court, I think, and President Trump is biting off every angle of the apple that we could imagine. It makes Bob Rosebrock and I kind of a little unhappy, because we were very happy to hear that when he was going to get elected, that the VA and fixing the VA, the corruption inside the VA is just as bad as it is in any organization. We all heard about Lois Lerner over at the IRS, right? Well, the corruption that's going on at the VA is not just the medical, that the veterans are not getting the medical treatment. It's also things like what Bob Rosebrock's doing. And so what's happened here is President Trump's had to bite so many bites out of the apple that it looks like the veterans is going to have to be solved by us, the people, because he's already moved on to things like immigration and the travel ban. He's now having to deal with North Korea. Imagine trying to fix Obamacare, the VA, the immigration crisis. This is just incredible challenge.
He definitely is. Like you say, he's biting off. But
it's like you. It's
off
like
a
you.
lot
Jamiel, the direct answer to your question is this: it's a fight. It's a fight that goes on every day, and it's a fight that we need supporters on, and it's a fight that the more people that stand up, conservatives and Republicans or independents who are leaning conservative, or even Democrats from the old Dixiecrat days, the traditional Democrats like I grew up knowing. These folks are normally not your type who get out and rebel rouse or go out and attend political rallies or do any of that. They're your type that go and vote religiously, but they're not the type that will do like Bob Rosebrock's doing, just getting out there and getting his feet soaked up by the cement 3 hours a week every Sunday and on Memorial Day. Or like you're doing on your radio show where you're keeping the interest level up and you're letting people know not to forget those who have been the victims of this kind of criminal activity. And it just takes every day all of us chewing away at it the best we can. I do my share as a lawyer. You do your share as a father, as a radio talk show. Bob does his share as a veteran. Judicial Watch does its share and more, as much as people support it on a whole variety of these issues. So it's really just pounding away every day and keeping the good fight up.
Cool. Yeah, definitely. I want to let people know. So what can the average person do to stop illegal immigration? I mean, from the grassroots level, there's someone they can call. Do you guys handle calls? I mean, what exactly can people do when they call you guys to help?
Well, the first thing that I would recommend somebody do, if they're new to this or they're new to what I've described or what Bob's described, is to go to judicialwatch.org and to actually request an email, just sign up for their regular email updates. If you use Twitter, then follow Judicial Watch on Twitter. Just do a search on Judicial Watch. It'll come right up for you. And just add that to your list of follows. That'll add the Judicial Watch feed. You'll get it every day. You'll get the daily updates. That's the way to get informed immediately, and also to be getting this stuff in your inbox every day so that you can, selectively read what's most important to you. If you live in Texas, you might be more interested in what's going on with terrorists coming across the Texas border. If you live in California, you might be interested in California actually becoming a sanctuary state of all things. I mean, our laws are headed in that direction if we don't stop it. If you're living in Arizona, it's a different issue over there.
To stop that? Real quick, what can be done? What can the people do who don't want California to become a sanctuary state, even though Kevin De Leon might pass it? Is there any way that somebody could follow suit and stop what they're doing?
Well, I think they need to support what we're doing in San Francisco, and I can tell you behind the scenes there's also, the legal team is considering all of our options, and we're looking at various ways to attack these issues. We actually win this, Jamiel. No, let's not forget something very basic here. We're fighting against a very powerful opponent, and in some cases we have like the deep state, which is inside our government. That deep state, which is fighting against even our own government trying to do the right thing. So we have these huge, Goliaths out there, and so I like to think of it as though we are winning the battle every time we file a lawsuit. So the fact that the lawsuit's been filed in San Francisco, it's actually being litigated, you can go read about it on Judicial Watch, and you can support it. And that's how you do it. If you're a member of a church, Jamiel, you can't necessarily build the church for the church because you don't have those finances. But if you want to support the work of the Lord, you give a few dollars or a lot of dollars, whatever you can afford to help do that. It's the same thing here about beating illegal immigration or helping take down the corruption inside the Veterans Administration.
Yeah, definitely.
Support it.
Okay, we're sort of running out of time now. Bob, you still there?
Yes. Hi, Jamiel. I appreciate you so much. Yeah.
And some kind of information they can get.
Okay, I'll see you in my office. Stop in the morning.
No, before we go, give people some kind of information so they can get in touch with you.
I'll give my email address, which is Rosebrock. It's RROSEB as in boy ROCK and the number 1 at AOL.com. And they can also Google in Veterans Today with my name, and there's a whole list of articles I've written that will keep them up. Or if they just contact me at rrosebrock1 at AOL.com, I'll feed them all the information.
And you're out there every weekend at the Veterans
every
and
Sunday,
Memorial
every
Day,
Sunday, every Sunday, 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock at the corner of Wilshire and San Vicente, right outside the VA. It's at the northeast corner, and we'd sure love to have people come by and hold some duty with us. Or the old
I'm sure you'll get some. Thanks for everything, both of you guys. And we're running out of time now. Got a few minutes left, and I just want everybody to know that, like Robert and Bob were saying, these are guys who are doing something. You don't feel guilty if you're not doing nothing, but start now. Like I always tell people say, well, what can I do? Who do I start with? And I say, hey, go home, look in the mirror. And whoever you see in that mirror, start with that person. They say, well, where do I start? They say, well, where do you live? Start right there. And they just move on, because I'm sure that's where Bob started, that's where Robert started, and where I started, 3 doors down. So you get in where you fit in. Don't try to do what I do or Bob do or Robert do. Do what you do, then you'll keep doing it. Sometimes people get caught up in trying to be like Mike, so to speak, and then they don't keep it. And then 6 months later, you're looking for them, and they're like, hey, what happened to you? They got burnt out. That's why you pick something that you can stay with, that you like to do. I'm sure Bob loves to do the military and the flag, the VA hospital. Robert likes doing Judicial Watch, doing the attorney stuff. I'm doing the legal immigration, going to the gangs and stuff like that. So we'll keep doing it. So just get in where you fit in. And just one thing I tell people all the time, don't be afraid to say, you know what, you don't have to like illegal aliens. You don't have to. I mean, you don't have to go out there and beat up nobody or hurt nobody, but you don't have to like it. You don't have to hold it in. You can speak up. I know people are worried, well, if I speak up, I'm going to lose my job. Well, I'm not saying lose your job, but you got to decide what's more important, You got to do what you got to do. You got to do something, like
Jamiel,
Robert was saying.
Jamiel, can I
Sure.
say something on that point real quickly? It's my position, and I have plenty of literature to back this up. What the sanctuary cities are doing for the illegal immigrants, this is not a hate thing at all. This is not a white supremacist thing at all. This has got nothing to do with harming these people who are coming across. The truth is, the sanctuary laws are harming the illegal immigrant because they're pushing them underground. They're making them live in the shadows. They're not allowing them to come out and apply for citizenship and be citizens. They're not allowing them to do the right thing. And they're keeping them hidden. And these liberal groups are just coddling them and keeping them and representing their interests and telling them and putting them in fear. So you're absolutely correct what you just said, Jamiel. It's really harmful for them, actually, that they're caught up in this trap.
Yeah. All right, that's it. We got about 10 seconds. Thank you both. I appreciate you coming in. I'm sure people are very enlightened. We're going to get in touch with you guys. Hopefully we can see you soon, and keep up the good work. Thank you both, and